recorded the last album was during COVID, so the world kind of felt like it stopped. So now everything was a lot more fast-paced around us.
Yeah, writing this album felt like a slightly different process than we had with Blood of Creation. Blood of Creation, we were doing it during COVID, and we were isolated, and we weren't planning any shows, and we just, we really, really had the time to ourselves to, nitpick and, trust in the process for a long period of time. I was also getting to know everybody better and, kind of starting from my first steps there. So this time it felt a lot more comfortable. Like as a group, we knew each other. I think I knew everyone's idiosyncrasies a bit better.
Some of the songs kind of came together reasonably easy, and some took a long time of kind of trying different configurations and different things to see what stuck.
Well, this album was a little bit strange for me because I had to build this recording studio, and for me it was kind of like a deadline of getting the studio done by the time we had finished writing the album.
We had Chris just like building everything during the process as well, with building the studio and with all that and stuff. So I think it was slightly different. We definitely had more of a, I would say, slightly straight down the middle approach, with like wanting to really focus on like good anthemic courses that people could be singing along to and stuff, rather than I think Blood of Creation that had a little bit more of a progressive element to it.
It was a very long process, longer than we all I think had imagined. Just as life gets in the way and things take a little longer than you expect when it comes to detailing and things like that, but we definitely didn't want to cut any corners, so I think that was really important.
Walking into it, I had a huge confidence that building the studio was going to be my hardest challenge. And then it felt like recording the album was going to be my hardest challenge once we started. Everything was so tight on the timeline that I was soldering XLR connections into the walls the same day that we set up the drums. Coming up with a cover and even an album title for that matter was quite the challenge. Leighton had a couple ideas that we were sort of stewing on for a while, and I think it was just kind of finding the right approach to connect those ideas where everybody could agree that this was the move.
I really like the artwork. I think it turned out really well. It's not quite what I had in mind originally when I pitched the idea, but I think, if anything, it might have turned out a lot better. I like what Alan did with it.
These soldiers kind of marching off into the distance in a desert kind of landscape. So you have a lot of like oranges, yellows, kind of reds in the cover.
A shot of people crossing kind of a desert, but taken from out high, where the people are kind of more faceless, and it's not focused on one person. And it was really nice because we were talking about trying to do something different with this cover than we had done with any of the previous ones, not focusing on one person, using a different color palette, all this other, and all the ideas just kind of lined up, and then this is what we came up with. Through writing a lot of this album, I was in the middle of a reread of Malazan Book of the Fallen. A lot of what I was pulling in for like imagery and stuff when I was writing a lot of lyrics or the inspiration behind a lot of the songs came from Malazan.
So for Defenders, that one, I think we'd written it pretty early on in the process of writing the album, and it pretty immediately like jumped out as a good intro. It, like, something about it felt kind of welcoming, even though it was like not in 4/4.
Defenders was inspired by Tyrant Pace, because I really liked the style, specifically that intro riff, like the main riff.
When one of the riffs came up, it just immediately took me to this like shot of like a naval bombardment, and the idea for writing a song about Battle of Banks popped in my head.
It's kind of cool being able to talk about the beginnings of World War II and just some of the kind of trials that people went through. Yeah, that song in general is just like super fast paced. It's also got a lot of elements in it. I think it's going to be really interesting to take live.
Like Eternal Emperor, that's kind of like more of an Yngwie inspired kind of song. It's kind of evil and fast, and
you know, there's a character that I've just always found really interesting because he's not a good person by any stretch, but then he's slowly going insane because he keeps coming back to life every time he dies. And then he's also thrust into leadership. He went from the fourth son of a noble family to the leader of an entire people, and they conquer an empire, and, you know. But then he's also batshit crazy.
Dreamless Sea is an interesting one to me because it kind of comes off as like a ballad in a way. There's a lot of kind of emotional depth in the song.
It's a poem that I wrote, and that we turned into a song. And, you know, it's about, like, you know, going through a heartbreak and that bleakness that you feel. So, you know, the imagery of, like, walking through a garden that's dead, and then looking out over the sea, which is, you know, beautiful but also deadly, you know, full of possibility but also barren.
So for Dead House Gates, it follows a story in the Malazan book series, and one of the kind of scenes that it follows is about like following the path and you know, like not straying from how narrow the path becomes. And so I had an idea with the writing process to just be kind of going in between my hi-hats, and as the pre-chorus and chorus kind of gets there, I like cut it in half and then in half and then in half again, just to try to mimic some of like how things like kind of narrow it in.
I really wanted to like give this album a kind of almost a live feeling, and so when we were talking about the order of the tracks, having Dreamless Sea end on kind of an open note and then go right into this drum beat that begins Dead House Gates, it just kind of had this flow that kind of feels seamless on the album.
The whole idea of like mortals ascending into godhood is really cool. Perfect little quick, easy snapshot song kind of thing. Here's a really quick story, you know. But also, if you were to go out and read Malazan, you realize there's a whole lot of depth to it.
Line of Fire, there's very like fast, thrashy, megadethy sort of stuff, and we wanted to kind of. I was really loving the fact that like Europeans love thrash and fast metal and love to mosh, so I thought they would really like that style.
Line of Fire is a cool one because it's about nothing. Some riffs were written, some jams were jammed, and I wrote the lyrics in about an hour. Maybe less.
So for Blood and Steel, Leighton and I just kind of had an idea of something that started with a march, and just like playing around thematically around that. So it kind of just happened organically within the writing process. It's a different approach, and everyone that I've shown it so far has like really, really liked it. They found it really noteworthy that it's like a different sound for us. So I think it's really cool for that.
I guess, funny enough, it's not that complicated, but it seemed to be more hard or difficult to come up with things for this one for me. It's kind of like totally different than what I'm used to writing. Because it's very vocal heavy, but the riff behind it, I didn't want it to be so simple. Although it's a simple chord progression, I didn't want it to be super simple. So especially like the chorus riff, it's a little bit more, got little like things and stuff that kind of make it a little bit more intricate. But I really enjoyed how it worked out or came to be.
For me, it was actually kind of Praying Mantis that inspired me to write that song. Almost Irish kind of melodies in it and stuff like that, and it's kind of cool. I think it's a great song.
The opening lines were written in 2019 when we were on tour for Omaha. And I was driving, and the lines just popped into my head, and then I had to get our then drummer to write them down. And I was just flipping through my notebook when we were writing these, and I saw them, and I'm like, oh, those are actually like pretty cool lines. Like, how can I expand this? Kind of inspired by Slaughterhouse 5 in a strange way, but also the Marvel comics, where there's a Watcher who looks down from the moon and can't interfere, but you know, and there's that kind of moral quandary of like, if I have the power to do something, should I? Even though I'm not supposed to, right?
I would say that the most challenging song was probably Dark Demands in regards to composition, in regards to performing so far, just stepping outside of like a comfort zone, I suppose, working in a mode that I'm not necessarily like wasn't super natural in, but I did have what I wanted in mind. Like I knew what the sound I wanted was, but trying to find or create that sound was challenging.
Lyrically, I mean, it was kind of Megan's idea, but then I wanted to take, what she wanted to write about and then wrap it in a kind of fantasy sounding story.
So Starlight came mostly just from the idea of wanting to write something like from the point of view of like older Iron Kingdom approaches. Amanda Osterman has like some cool drum ideas that I tried to mimic in this one, and we just kind of tried to go for more of like a feel from our older albums and to pay a little bit of homage to that. It's one of the only ones that's like pretty directly done consciously that way, but we think it still fits in with this album. It still fits in with our early sound.
There's something about the riff. When Megan started playing it, I just started thinking about Gilgalad, the last High King of the Noldor, and how kind of the movies did him dirty. Like, nobody knows who he is. He's this like really important figure when it comes to the history of the Second Age, and ultimately the beginning of the Third Age and what happens in the Third Age. But like most people have no idea who he is, and like Peter Jackson cut out his death in the opening of the movies. I kind of wrote it as like an ode to how much I love Tolkien's work, as well as an ode to this forgotten hero of the elves.
And then we get to the final and probably my favorite track. This is Sacred Fire. This one just like, once the song starts, like once you get into the kind of heavier part of the song, it's just like crazy until the end, basically.
Sacred Fire was actually inspired a lot by Farewell to Kings, the song off of Farewell to Kings. One of the things I've always loved about Neil Peart's lyrics are the kind of moral questions that he asks. That was my kind of attempt at doing something similar, mixing a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of morality.
But I think it's very powerful, and I think it's very almost like anthemic and triumphant. So I'm really more excited to see how the fans react to that one.
I think people are really going to dig it. I think old fans won't be disappointed. It is very much us, but pushed a little further. And people just discovering us, I think, are going to like it. I think this is one of our best albums yet, if not the best. I think we did a good job coming up with something to follow up Blood Creation, which I think is what I think it was a very strong album. And it was a little daunting to try to come up with something next.
Really, really excited to finally get it out there and to be touring on it, and can't wait to see everybody live.
Anyways, I think the product turned out to be like exactly what we wanted, and we're really happy with it, and we hope you guys all enjoy it as well, just as much as we do. So we're really, I think I can speak for the whole band that we are very proud of this record.
Even though this album was quite a challenge to put together in pretty much all aspects, I do feel like it is one of our best records we've ever done, if not the best record we've made. And I'm really excited to see how this is going to pan out on the live stage. And I'm excited to see how fans are going to react to certain moments and certain songs. I think, though, overall, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think now we're going to start getting the benefits of all the work that we put in.